So the DOJ is now charging a man with illegal possession of a machine gun because he had 3 rare breed triggers on him along with other items. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you agree that the ATF needs to be abolished, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to give a shout out to one of the main supporters of this channel, which is USCCA. Through your membership, you get training, education, and self-defense liability protection. So if you carry a firearm, I highly recommend you take a look into USCCA, and I'll put a link to them down in the details section. So like I said in the intro, news broke a couple days ago that a Massachusetts man has been arrested by the DOJ and is being prosecuted and indicted for illegal possession of numerous firearms, including what the DOJ claims are unregistered machine guns. This issue relates directly to another issue that we have been following here on the channel, which is the ATF's recent actions against force reset triggers and companies like Rare Breed Triggers. In this case, the man is being charged with illegal possession of more than 40 machine guns and machine gun conversion devices. He is also being charged with illegal possession of unregistered short-barreled rifles, silencers, and some other items as well. One of the concerning aspects with all of these charges is that this is the first time that someone is being charged with a felony for being in illegal possession of a machine gun simply because they had Rare Breed FRT-15 triggers on them and other force reset triggers as well. 56-year-old Daniel Augusto was indicted on 1 count of unlawful possession of machine guns, 6 counts of unlawful possession of unregistered firearms, and 1 count of making false statements to a federal agent. According to the indictment on February 23, 2022, Mr. Augusto unlawfully possessed multiple unregistered firearms, magazines, and silencers, including more than 40 conversion devices and force reset triggers that are now classified by the DOJ as so-called machine guns. Specifically, Mr. Augusto allegedly possessed 1 PTR Industries model PTR-9 with 1 magazine and an altered HK MP5 type machine gun trigger housing which was installed, 38 switch type Glock machine gun conversion devices that bared a counterfeit Glock logo, 3 Rare Breed FRT-15 force reset triggers designed to be allowed to be installed into an AR-15 type style firearm, and they had no serial numbers on them, 1 Tommy Triggers FRT-15, which also could be dropped into AR-15 type rifles, 1 Imperial Arms 5.7, 1 SIG MPX also with a collapsible stock, a Tech 9 that also had a forward pistol grip on it, a vertical grip, and then also 2 unregistered suppressors were also in his possession. The indictment further alleges that on February 23, 2022, Mr. Augusto falsely stated to federal agents that all of his firearms in his residence belonged to his son and his girlfriend, and that he never asked his son or girlfriend to purchase those firearms. The charges of unlawful possession of a machine gun provides for a sentence of up to 10 years in prison, up to 3 years of supervised release or probation, and a fine of up to $250,000. The charges of unlawful possession of an unregistered firearm each provide for a sentence of 10 years in prison, 3 years of probation, and each a $250,000 fine. The charge of making false statements to federal agents provides for a sentence of up to 5 years in prison, 3 years of probation, and a fine of up to $250,000. So as you can see, he is facing a ton of time in prison, a ton of fines. Now this is coming off the heels of the ATF sending out an open letter to all FFLs in regards to treating some FRT-15 triggers as so-called machine guns under the NFA and GCA. The letter from the ATF claims that people in possession of these force reset triggers are in possession of illegal machine guns and can be subject to heavy fines and criminal penalties. However, after that letter went out from the ATF, we hadn't really heard anything else from the DOJ or the ATF and didn't hear anything about them arresting or prosecuting anyone because of the possession of those triggers. Well, now we have actually a significant case where the DOJ and the ATF are charging a person with felony possession of a so-called machine gun or an illegally unregistered machine gun simply because they had a force reset trigger. Now, for those of you who are confused about what is going on, let me explain what the ATF has been doing in regards to force reset triggers. Back in July of 2021, the ATF sent out a cease and desist letter to companies including Rare Breed Trigger. In the letter, the ATF claimed that in their eyes, the Rare Breed FRT-15 trigger, the force reset trigger, meets the NFA and GCA definition of a machine gun. Because of this, the ATF claimed that the triggers were subject to registration, taxation, possession restrictions like actual machine guns were. Also, the ATF claimed that the possession of these triggers outside of the GCA and NFA's restrictions would subject random individuals, just simply people who are in possession of these triggers, to criminal penalties. In the letter, the ATF told Rare Breed to cease and desist the manufacture and transfer of the triggers and to contact them so that they could figure out what they should do about triggers that were already sold to people. The issue was not simply isolated to Rare Breed, Soon reports came out that the ATF was also going after other manufacturers as well who sold various types of force reset triggers. Rare Breed did file a lawsuit against the ATF in the Middle District of Florida, but ultimately that case was thrown out by the court because the parties failed to meet a filing deadline. Recently, Rare Breed filed a new lawsuit against the ATF in North Dakota. The ultimate goal of the lawsuit is to eliminate those altered regulations of the ATF and to stop that cease and desist letter which is being enforced against Rare Breed and those force reset triggers. They also are seeking a permanent determination from the ATF or against the ATF that the ATF does not have the authority to redefine the term machine gun on their own. The ATF is interpreting some force reset triggers as machine guns because, in their own words, the subject FRTs do not require shooters to pull and then subsequently release the trigger to fire a second shot. Based on that, they say that the FRT that allows a firearm to automatically expel more than one shot with a single continuous pull of the trigger is a machine gun. Now, why is that important? Well, because the ATF is adding in language and terms into the definition of a machine gun. Nowhere in the definition of a machine gun does it say that you have to subsequently release the trigger to fire a second shot. And nowhere in the definition of a machine gun will you see the term single continuous pull of the trigger. The language the ATF is using to claim that these triggers are so-called machine guns is completely made up by the ATF to justify this ban. The actual definition says single function of a trigger, which the FRT does not meet because it is two functions of the trigger, the pull and then the reset. Now, currently the Rare Breed lawsuit is still going and it really is just getting started. The government recently got an extension to file their answer to that complaint, and that is not even due till August 9th. So really the case is still in its infancy. However, you do have the Supreme Court's recent ruling in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin, and even the West Virginia v. EPA case, which support why the government activity here is invalid. In Bruin, the Supreme Court said that a government restriction of this type must have a historical analog dating back to 1791. If it does not, then it's invalid and violates the Second Amendment. Recently, we saw in the Texas suppressor lawsuit that the ATF is trying to claim that the NFA has a long-standing tradition because it dates back to the 1930s, but that is not what the Supreme Court actually said. The only relevant history, according to the Supreme Court, is 1791. All other history really isn't relevant. Then you have the West Virginia v. EPA decision by the Supreme Court, which established the major question doctrine as a primary consideration instead of something like Chevron deference. Under the major question doctrine, administrative agencies must be able to point to a clear congressional authorization when they claim that they have a power to make a decision of vast economic and political significance. Under this decision, the only way the ATF could engage in this activity is if they had clear congressional authority, which of course we know they do not. They are just making the rules up as they go. Despite those Supreme Court decisions, the DOJ and the ATF are not slowing down. They're still going after those triggers, and they are still going to try to prosecute people for illegal possession of so-called machine guns if they have these force reset triggers in their possession. Keep in mind that the ATF, through their most recent letters, have indicated that they will be taking necessary remedial actions against makers and possessors of these triggers. The prior letters threatened that they would take these actions, but now we have the first case where they're actually doing it. So if we get any more information, I will let you all know. Also, if this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. Again, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So again, thank you so much for all of your support. And as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.